Welcome to Advent of Code with Pandas. My name is Teddy Petru, and I'm showcasing advanced Pandas tricks with these solutions. This is day 5. All right, let's get started. Here is the data, and it's actually two separate data sets. The first part is these funny looking columns. These are boxes of crates that are stacked on top of each other. You can think of like in a warehouse. So there's 9 columns over here of boxes that are stacked like this. And then the second set of data says what to do with these boxes. So let me explain what this means. This line, our first instruction, says to move 3 crates from column 5 to column 7. So we're going to take these boxes right here and stack them on top of column 7, but we're going to do so in reverse order for this first part. So at the top will be L, then S, then W, then F, and so forth. There won't be any boxes left in 5. Let's look at the next instruction. We're going to take 2 boxes from 8 and stack them on top of 9. So we're going to take the top 2, B and R, and stack them in reverse order on top of 9. So it'll be R, B, then W, Z, and so forth. They will no longer be in 8. All right, so I'm going to read in 2 data sets. I'm going to read in the crates like this, and then I'm going to read in the moves down below. So first we're going to read in the crates, and so this is actually a difficult task, and I'm going to show you what I did. So what I've done is actually just read it in as one long string per row. I did not separate it into columns yet. I'm now going to use the Pandas features, not read CSV, to go ahead and separate this out into columns. And the way I've done this is by passing it in calling the split method to pass in a regular expression that looks for 1 to 4 spaces. And the reason I chose that is that if there is a item in that first column, there will be 1 space over here. If there's no item, it'll be 3 or 4 spaces. So it'll split on that 4th space like that. And so let me just show you the result. So I get a data frame of our columns like this. So that looks good. And then this next line will just replace these. And let me just show you. Underneath there are actually empty strings here as values. So I'm just going to replace these empty values with nans and then just get rid of these brackets with an empty space. And I'm doing this with again, a regular expression. And I don't need to see values anymore. Let's go back into our data frame. So here is our diagram like this of our stacks of crates. Now, to make the problem a little bit easier, I'm going to just change the orientation. It doesn't really change the underlying meaning, but I'm just going to move all the crates up, all the stacks up to the top. I'm just going to shift them up to the very top so there's no missing values here. And like for instance, this stack will not get moved because there's nothing, it's the tallest stack right now. And the way I do this is just ignore this line for a second, concentrate on this one. The apply method is called on each column by default. I'm going to call the shift method of each series. So I'm going to say shift up by the number of missing values in that column. So this is what that does. It calculates the number of missing values, shifts them up by that much. See, it's a negative shift, so I'm shifting the data up. If it was a positive shift, it would shift it down. So just ignore this reindex for a second. And I get this result. So notice how everything is shifted up. The last bit is just this reindex is just going to make a bunch of empty rows. Notice I've said number of not missing. So this line calculates the number of non-missing values. It's just the total number of crates in in our warehouse. And I've done this just in case during the moving around that there's enough room in case all of the crates are stacked in one column. So this just adds all these missing values. So there's 56 total crates. And just in case all of them get stacked on a single one, I will have room for it. Okay, let's keep going. The next piece is to read in the moves And I'm going to comment this out to show you. So the first thing is that, let's go back up and look at the data, sorry. So I'm reading this in. So I skip the first 9 or 10 lines over here and I start over here. I've made the separator any non-digit character. So it's going to, any non-digit character is considered a separator. So it's a pretty slick way. It's a regular expression. It will actually read in 4 columns because it's considering this as 1, and then this is 2, and so forth, and then this is 3, and then this is 4. So let's go down here to see what we get. So here are the 4 columns, and this one just drops that first column. And then I'm just going to rename these columns move, from, and to, like this. And because Python and Pandas uses a 0 index, really stack 1 is, we're going to refer to it as stack 0. So I'm just going to subtract, or not from move, from and to 1, like this, so we can align it correctly. So this is, really the 5th column, but we use index 4 in Python to reference it. Okay, now then I create one more function here that's going to loop over this data frame, and we'll then go ahead and change what's happening in df crates. So it's going to go through here and modify this data frame. Basically what it's going to do, and let's go ahead and just put the, actually I'm going to say put the top 10 over here so you can see this. So what's going to happen is it's going to go through one by one. This is this function over here, and it's going to take in every row. So this row as a series, 3, 4, 6. I'm going to unpack this series into these 3 variables, move, from, underscore, and to. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this 2 column. So right here, this 2 column right here, I'm going to shift it down. So here is 6. I'm going to move it down 3. So I'm getting it ready, right? I'm moving it down by that move. So I'm shifting it down, move. I'm shifting it down 3 spots. That's the first thing. So let's go ahead and I will run this, and so you can see what's going on. It's hard to see in a group by what's actually happening. So I'm going to display the df crates.head 10, and I will just say print step 1. So I'm going to raise an error on purpose so we can see what is happening. Okay, so here's my function, and then I'm going to call it order equals -1. I'll show you where that, and we're not quite there at that step. Okay, so all I've done here is I've shifted this down 3. Okay, so I'm preparing to move these 3 from 4 to 6. That's what this step does right there. Okay, all right, so I actually have to read in the data once more, just because I have permanently modified it. So it's a issue with doing this like this one step at a time, but hopefully it'll still be worth it. So let me go ahead and then show you step 2. I'm going to call step 2, get the raise out of there. So step 2 starts right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to overwrite in the 2 column. So that's what this is. I'm overwriting the 2 column, the top 3. I'm slicing the first 3 using iloc, and I'm replacing it with the data in the move column, which is 4, right? So it goes from 4 to 6. That's what it's reading. So I'm going to take these 3 and replace them over here, but I'm going to do it in reverse order. Start, stop, step. So the step size will be -1. So it's going to reverse them and then drop them in here. So let's go ahead and run this now. And I forgot to actually input my function. So let me go back up and just redo these. This should say step 2. Okay, so it's all right. So pretend that says step 2. So now I've moved WSL right over here, upside down, LSW. And then the last step will be to just shift this up. We're just going to move these up. 4, that's where we moved it from. We're going to just move it up, whatever that move is. So we're going to move it up, which is a negative movement. And this will actually be step 3. So again, I need to reread in my data and run this. And you'll see, okay, so here is step 1, shift this down. Step 2 is take WSL, put it upside down over here. And then step 3 is just to shift this up. There's actually nothing left in this particular column anymore. All right, so it does that for all of, it's gonna do that for all of the instructions, right? So every row, it's gonna do this. And like that. And let me go back up one more time and run this. And that's how the final data frame will be this. Notice it, so this is sort of, you'll be like wondering, what is this? Well, it has actually returned a series over here because I've applied it, this function. I have not returned anything from this method or from this function. So normally apply, you're trying to get some new series out of it, but in here, I'm just using it to modify this data frame. So this is sort of a not very conventional use of apply to modify data frames. You typically do not do this. So I don't care about this result. The only thing I do care about is this down here, df crates. All right, so that is the result. The last thing to do is to just get that first row and then just concatenate all of them together. And let me just make sure I have my data correct. And so we just take that first row right there, concatenate it all together with the sum method like that. And that's what we submit as our answer. So if you like this trick, then I think you'll really love Master Data Analysis with Python. It's an extremely comprehensive text on doing data analysis with Pandas, over 500 exercises, there's video lessons and certification exams, so you can learn how to manipulate data just like this in this video. All right, moving on to the second half. The second half of this problem is actually quite easy. We're just going to stack the crates in the same order, not in reverse order. So we just have to do one more thing and create order equals 1. So I'm just going to reread in my crates over here, df crates. I'm going to, move the shift up to get rid of the missing values at the top. And then I'm going to apply that same function like this, and I will get a new df crates, which I just call that same method like this, to sum up the top and get the right response. All right, so that is it for day 5, Advent of Code with Pandas.